83, R&D. It had been 2 loops since Ryan last met Vulcan in the flesh. The sight of her mech descending from above filled him with nostalgia and longing. Ryan stood in front of the bunker's entrance as Vulcan landed her vehicle atop a pile of trash. She climbed out of her metal suit, stood atop it like a pint-sized conqueror, and smirked. "I love what you've done with the place," she told Ryan, after giving a cursory glance at the junkyard. Mekran's mech guarded the entrance while surrounded by burning helicopters, all of them bearing Dynami's logo. And yet, Ryan didn't pay much attention to them. He only had eyes for this fierce woman, who once saved him from Hannafat Lecter at this very spot. His heart had beat for her then, and it still did so today. "What's wrong?" Vulcan asked, amused. "Have you fallen for me at first sight?" "Even if I disappear," she had said, all but pleading. "Promise you won't forget me." "It hurt just like the first day." Something like that, the courier lied, before making a mock reverence to hide his saddened gaze. "Welcome to my humble abode, Miss Sharif. You didn't have any problem bypassing the blockade? I designed Dynami's anti-aerial weapons." Vulcan shrugged, as she climbed down from her mech to join him. "They're far too slow for me. So are your defenses, for that matter. Try me." Vulcan's head snapped at Mekran's scorpion mech, as a cheerful voice came out of it. "Fastest toaster in the West." Vulcan studied the mech with renewed interest. "I thought Mekran made sure his slave AIs couldn't talk back." "We uploaded a new personality matrix worthy of this mighty machine," Ryan explained, tapping one of the mech's legs. "One perfect for the job." "I'm a toaster, I burn stuff," the mech replied. "I'm pretty one-dimensional in what I want." It was the best kind of minion. The one that loved its dirty work. With the land dealing with any intruders on the ground with quakes, and Toasty bombarding any flyer, the private security's haphazardous attempts at raiding Rust Town had failed miserably. Eventually, they simply decided to besiege the district. A ring of tanks and soldiers prevented anyone from moving in or out, and warships blockaded the harbor. In theory, nothing short of a teleporter would allow the meta-gang to escape. A pity Dynamis didn't know about the bunker's underwater access. Ryan had carefully edited it out of the plans he sent to Nora, in case she connected the dots. Dynamis would devote all its resources to besieging Rust Town, leaving their HQ vulnerable to a sneak attack. The fear of Ryan's A-bombs would keep the megacorporation from attempting anything drastic, but only for a short while. Eventually, they would figure out a way to neutralize his weaponry, but by then it would be too late. "Still, I'm surprised you showed up," Ryan admitted, as he invited Vulcan inside the bunker. "Associating with us won't be good for your reputation." "A deal is a deal," the genius replied with a smirk. "And a man humiliating that bitch wyvern in front of the entire city is a man after my own heart. If I don't make it, go to Laura. Because she's so fucking perfect." And it took New Rome's destruction for them to bury the hatchet. "Perhaps I can make the deal even sweeter?" Ryan raised his hat, and drew an A-bomb from it. Vulcan raised an eyebrow at the courier, but accepted the gift gracefully. The happy face she made whenever he offered her this bomb delighted Ryan. "Are you trying to bribe me?" "Yes," the president replied, knowing she would love it. "Is it working?" "I dunno," she answered with a laugh, playing with the beautiful metal ball. "Mine are bigger than yours." "You haven't seen my full arsenal," Ryan replied, unable to resist. "I polish it every day." Vulcan smirked coyly. "I only believe what I see." "Damn it." Ryan could tell that if he put on the charm, Vulcan would fall for him again. They shared a natural, playful chemistry, the same love of big bombs and innuendos. Holding her in his arms and kissing her would feel like going home to his wife, after a long trip. It would feel just right. Don't replace me with another Jasmine. And yet, Ryan had made a promise to Jasmine, his Jasmine, and would abide by her wish. Even if no one would hold the courier responsible if he broke his promise, he respected his old girlfriend enough not to betray her last request. If only he had completed the brain transfer machine before that cursed loop. Make sure this disaster never happens again, okay? Kill that fat ass. At least he followed through with that promise. Ryan led his ex-girlfriend down into the corridors overseeing the bunker's hangars. Vulcan stopped at the repaired glass windows, observing the submarine and the tech gathered here. A full Mecran base, right below our feet, she whistled, as Ryan gave her a tour of the facility. You really hit the jackpot. We even have a matter replicator. Ryan pitched her the benefits of her new workplace. You just put in the design and the necessary material, and bam! Instant weapon. And what weapon do you want from me exactly? She asked, putting a hand on her waist. Because I doubt you contacted me to build a teddy bear. You underestimate their power. They lure you into a false sense of security, and then they hug you into submission. Is that your plan to take over the city? Trade the nuclear bombs for teddy bears? Ryan had to keep her away while she worked, or he wouldn't resist. The more Vulcan spoke, the more her wit pulled him in. Well, if you want to know, we've figured out how Mecran enhanced his henchman's powers. Alchemo had finally overcome most of the mainframe's remaining firewalls, giving the group access to Mecran's key files. This immediately caught Vulcan's full interest. Go on, she asked. I'll share the data, but long story short, Mecran found ways to streamline the flux energy a genome radiates with biomechanical implants. The underlying theory is the same as with your power armors. Much like Dynamis, Mecran's knockoffs were synthetic life forms mimicking the properties of genuine elixirs. Though they weren't sentient unlike Darkling or genuine elixirs, they could modify genes based on data gathered from true genomes. However, the mad genius had gone a step farther than the Monadas. Though they lacked an innate connection to the color dimensions, his knockoffs could create microscopic portals to them with sufficient mechanical support. By channeling the flux energy it generated and using data gathered from an existing genome, Mecran's machines could crudely imitate the template's power. The telekinetic mech Ryan fought in the bunker was only one example. By the end of his life, Mecran had started experimenting with biomechanical warbeasts capable of great destruction. His artificial elixirs needed a lot more technical support to function than the originals, but they worked. Ryan shuddered at what Mecran could have achieved, had the madman lived a few more years. If he had perfected his elixirs and outfitted his robots with superpowers, he would have become unstoppable. Still, these knockoffs were pale imitations of true elixirs, and far less efficient. So Mecran's AIs had gone further, which led to Darkling. You want me to create a suit of power armor, Vulcan guessed, grinning with excitement. Something that can supercharge your power. Yes, with a cashmere poncho over it. By combining data from both sources and the bunker's advanced technology, Ryan knew his favored Spitfire could create a magnum opus. The design would also incorporate lens signal tech, hopefully allowing the courier to send multiple people back in time. However, he would need Len's help for it, and his best friend still refused to leave her room. Up for it? Ryan asked, once they reached the recreation area. Saren, Acid Rain, Mosquito, and a few others had gathered in front of a TV post put on the bar counter, watching the news. Like the day I was born. Do or don't. There is no try. Those had been Jasmine's last words, and they summed her up perfectly. She always gave it her all. Hey, boss. Saren called him. They're going to talk about us. Finally. Ryan rejoiced as he and Vulcan approached the TV screen. Obviously, Hector Monada denied everything and tried a silent campaign, enforcing a news ban to cover up Ryan's revelations. But the damage had been done, and people talked. It seemed that Dynamis had finally decided to address the elephant in the room through a press conference. Il Miglior's full lineup had gathered at the Optimates Tower's entrance, accompanied by Enrique Blackthorne Manata and PR specialists. Of course, wardrobe always dressed chic, a pillar of culture among fashion disasters. Felix's claw marks had healed, but he didn't bother to hide his frustration. As for Wyvern, her face was utterly blank and lifeless. Ryan glanced at the news ticker, each information worse than the last. Unexplained explosions continue, children still missing after daycare attack, the private security refused to come. The plushies kept causing more incidents across town. Tensions were at an all-time high, Dynamis was stretched thin, and people demanded answers. Vulcan snickered, as Blackthorne invited Wyvern to take place on a stage and face an army of journalists. More dog than dragon. She isn't corrupt, Ryan said, just naive. Vulcan frowned at him in response. Who told you that crap? Jasmine. Which only highlighted how much she had changed as a person by the end. Jasmine had been willing to give up her grudge, but Vulcan wouldn't move on by herself. Not without help. Ryan listened silently as Wyvern addressed the crowd and all of New Rome. She of course condemned the Meta Gang's terrorist threat, promised retribution she couldn't deliver, said everything was under control, blah blah blah. Many of you have wondered if the images shown on this so-called Mr. President's video were genuine, Wyvern said, her expression stoic and professional. Or if his accusations about the dangers of knockoff elixirs were founded. The courier braced himself for impact. They are. The audience exploded into gasps, shock spread across the Il Miglior team, and the PR assistants looked at Wyvern as if she had lost her mind. Clearly, her outburst was entirely unscripted. Even Vulcan opened her mouth in surprise, astonished that her former ally would dare defy her employers. Enrique Manata remained as still as a statue, and made no move to interrupt the superhero's revelations. Perhaps he had wanted to say such things for a long time, but never had the courage to. Felix's reaction wasn't so restrained though. The young kitten simply walked away from the press conference, and from Dynamis. I have checked, Wyvern continued, her face twisting in anger and bitterness. I cannot stay silent about this, nor remain with an organization capable of something so terrible. As such, I am permanently stepping down from my position as Il Miglior's leader, though I will continue to cooperate with them against the Met. The declaration was met with an explosion of questions from the reporters, and a wide grin from Vulcan. More modest, Ryan simply joined his hands. All according to Kikaku. After Alchemo fully took over the bunker, he had set the robots to maintenance duties and tasked them to repair the place. The genome research lab where Ryan had fought Mekran's spider mech was no different. Though the machines hadn't yet filled the ceiling hole created by Darkling, they cleaned up the floor and repaired broken vats. When he entered the room, Ryan found Livia sitting on the same kind of robotic chair which Adam used to restrain him. The Augusti princess had removed her helmet, and grinded her teeth together as a mechanical arm gathered a few drops of blood from her left arm. Brain Dead had connected to a large computer system linked to the chair, observing the data on a screen. You're all right, princess? Ryan asked Livia, worried for her well-being. He could tell from experience that Alchemo had no problem roughing up his patients. I hope I will not regret it, Livia said, covering her naked arm with her sleeve once the machine was done. This information could cause great harm in the wrong hands. Ryan could see her point. Augustus had become the warlord of Italy by virtue of having two powerful abilities with no side effects. A cure for the psychos syndrome would potentially allow anyone to do the same, causing an arms race. Even you must be curious about your special status, the courier pointed out. A bit, she admitted with a smile. My father said we had been chosen by fate, but I've always been skeptical. Well, Alchemo said, as results appeared on the screen. How interesting. Done blood-sucking young women? Ryan asked, as he offered Livia his arm. The precog responded with a charmed smile, as she accepted his help with aristocratic grace. She didn't let it go even once she had risen up from her seat. People will talk. As if I cared what the meat said. Now stop barking, and look. We will make history today. The courier and Livia obliged, looking at the screen. A woman's bioscan appeared, representing the skeleton and major organs. Spots of orange and violet colors flared all over the body, like oil and water pushing against one another. This shows Helen's results? Ryan asked, acid rain having served as the first test subject. Indeed, Alchemo confirmed. Each of her elixirs rewrote around 50% of her DNA, and they conflict. Sometimes the orange elixir affects 51% of her body, sometimes 49%. The exact percentages vary each day, creating mutations, tumors, and other health problems. The genius uploaded a second picture, which Ryan assumed represented Livia's biosigns. The Augusti princess was almost entirely blue in color, with a slight spot of violet near the ears and brain. Unlike the previous scan, the colored areas didn't move at all. Now, our friend here is very different, the genius continued his explanation. Most of her genetic code has been affected by the blue elixir, to the point she might appear as a monocolored genome at first glance. I took the blue elixir first, Livia said. Alchemo nodded, before pointing a syringe finger at the purple spot. However, around 2.5% of her DNA has been rewritten by the second, violet elixir. Both substances are remarkably stable, and do not overwrite each other's information. So Tyranno's theory was correct, at least partly. Livia's powers coexisted without conflicting or fusing. The million-dollar question being why this happened, Ryan said. And why only 2.5%? Don't you see the obvious? Alchemo asked with smug confidence, happy to see the solution which had evaded the courier for centuries. No, but I'm sure you will enlighten me, O great keeper of knowledge. Brain Dead didn't even answer the taunt, too high on his superior position as a teacher. The original elixirs were meant to bond with humans. With Homo sapiens. So far, all attempts to have elixirs bond to animals have failed, even with chimpanzees, who share almost 99% of our genome. Even Mecrin only succeeded by creating a workaround, Ryan muttered. Using technology to mimic a true genome's powers. But what if they had been on the right track? Brain Dead mused. Just not close enough? Ryan thought furiously about what he meant for a second, before the solution became obvious to him. The Neanderthals? Neanderthals? Livia asked in confusion. The current Homo sapiens species interbred with Neanderthals before their extinction, with the Eurasian population inheriting around 2% of their genes from them, Ryan explained. Neanderthals were our closest relatives. Livia's eyes widened in genuine surprise. Enough to confuse the elixirs? I believe so, Alchemo nodded. My theory is that your elixirs mistakenly believed that they bonded to two different individuals, instead of one. This caused them to share your body, for a lack of better term. The Augusti princess frowned in skepticism, immediately seeing the problem. But if your theory is correct, then people with two powers should be far more common. As you said, this affects the entire Eurasian population. Millions of people. You probably need a very specific ratio or combination of Neanderthal genes to fool the elixirs, Alchemo defended his theory, though he sounded less certain and couldn't convince Livia. Or it could be caused by a syndrome like chimerism, where one organism has cells from more than one genotype. Only a few hundred cases were ever recorded. If it is so rare, why do my father and I share it? Is it inheritable? Livia asked, causing the genius to fall silent as he tried to find an answer. Probably not, from your reaction. Ryan considered the matter, trying to find a logical explanation and assemble all pieces of the puzzle. His thoughts turned to Darkling, and his discussions with that sentient elixir. They were taught, Ryan muttered. I'm sorry? Livia asked. Someone told me elixirs were taught to bond with humans, probably by the alchemist. If Darkling's tale was true, then it had been pulled from its home dimension by Mecren's AI, but refused to behave afterward. Which implied the bonding process isn't natural for them. Them? His first lady looked more confused by the second. I'm sorry, do you mean elixirs are intelligent? Yes, but not like us. Even Darkling, who understood humans enough to talk to them, found their reality maddening. They are alien life forms that don't even use DNA, foreigners who have been given a crash course on our language. They know the words, but not the music. So, Livia frowned. What you mean to say, is that elixirs have only a superficial understanding of us? About how we are made? I can't prove it, but it's a plausible explanation, Ryan said. He would need to confirm it with Darkling. According to his pet Shoggoth, elixirs were meant to connect lower life forms to the ultimate ones, eventually allowing them to ascend. But as the courier's own experience showed, the communication wasn't perfect. The difference in mindset was too large. Due to something in your genetic code, whether Neanderthal DNA, a unique quirk, or something else, your elixirs believed they bonded to two different people sharing a body. But it's a fragile equilibrium, she guessed. If I take one more, the original elixirs realize their mistake and start conflicting. And Mongrel's power grants him a limited control over how elixirs behave, Ryan added, glancing at Alchemo. If we can reproduce his ability and combine it with gene therapy, we could create a serum that would force the original two elixirs to realign, and mimic the conditions that led to our test subject's unique equilibrium, Alchemo replied with a nod. Livia frowned at the test subject part, but didn't comment. Or alternatively, remove the extra elixir and turn the target into a normal, monocolor genome. But to create something this complex, Livia reread her bioscience, before turning at Alchemo. How long would it take you to create such a cure? Braindead let out what could pass for a sigh. It may take months for Mecren's AI to mimic Mongrel's power, let alone design a cure from it. These machines are powerful, but the subject is eminently complex. My own genius specialty does not overlap with this case study either. We'll need Dr. Tyranno, Ryan muttered to himself. As the only genius specialized in gene therapy, he could probably design a cure for psychos if presented with the necessary data and resources. Livia bristled, while Alchemo snickered in disdain. Dynami's dinosaur maker, the genius asked. Do you think he will help? Not unless I convince him that my evil plan involves turning everyone into dinosaurs. Just kidnap him then. You already escalated to terrorism, what's one more crime? He rarely leaves Dynami's HQ, and never without a heavy escort, Livia said. And if anything happens to him, Dynami's goes all in. He's the cornerstone of their entire knockoff operation, so they will try to get him back at all costs. And if he dies? Ryan asked with a frown. Why didn't your father try to have him assassinated? Because then Fallout gets involved, Livia replied ominously. The way she said it, she had foreseen it. I think you can imagine how it will end. Yes, he could. Would he react the same if he lost the other pillar of knockoff production? Ryan intended to attack Lab 66 as soon as Vulcan finished her armor, and after opening Darkling's portal home. He couldn't afford to wait too long for someone like Fallout or Hargraves to force a way inside the bunker. Would Dr. Tyranno help make a cure at all? Livia asked. He turned a psycho into a drink. This does not speak well of his moral fiber. Ryan still remembered how that Scaly had tried to gut the panda open to see how his ability worked. Without anesthesia. He cares only about his research and dinosaurs, the courier said. Not for lab safety. Unfortunately, Ryan doubted he could convince Dr. Tyranno to cooperate during this loop. He needed more information on the man. Yet, they would need Mongrel, Livia, the bunker, and additional data to create the cure. The courier only obtained access to these resources due to very specific circumstances impossible to replicate in the next. Livia, darling, do you have anything planned for tonight? She slowly nodded, albeit reluctantly. My father asked for a meeting, probably about how to deal with you. I will have to return to him soon. Ryan could read between the lines. They needed to have a talk with Len, and prepare for the future. They needed to discuss how to end this doomed loop, and how to proceed afterward. The Augusti princess turned towards the room's door. You can come in, she said. This does not have to end in violence. The metal door opened, and someone stopped listening through it. Better luck next time, eh? Saren pointed her gauntlet at Ryan, her fingers vibrating with power. Not gonna work for me. 84, left behind. None dared to move as Saren pointed her gauntlets at the group. Energy built up within her hands, ready to unleash mighty shockwaves. Truth be told, Ryan didn't fear his rebellious VP. He could easily stop time and defeat her. However, they were in an enclosed space with knockoffs kept in vats nearby. If she unleashed a shockwave and splattered the courier with the substance, even by accident. So, it's treason then? Ryan joked. You know you will get impeached for this defiance, right? You're the traitor. Saren threatened him with her gauntlet. You promised me to find a cure. I've believed you, killed for you, and now you can't follow through with it. You're going to turn back. Saren, darling, there are others in the RO. I won't let you time travel again, Saren snarled, uncaring. Not until you cure me first. Even if it takes you months, I won't let you go back until it's done. Ryan tensed, and glanced at the other people in the room. Livia remained unperturbed, probably using her power on Saren to find a way out. And Alchemo. He wasn't surprised. You knew, Ryan said. You bastard, you listened at the door when I told you not to. Every time the courier found the strength to trust that brain in a jar, he found a new and interesting way to betray his confidence. I did no such thing, Alchemo replied, though he sounded apologetic. But when you wanted me to upload that girl's memory map. You checked her memories, Ryan realized, infuriated. The genius could harvest and read memories from others. Like Psyshock. I had to make sure there was no sabotage left, Alchemo defended himself. I am not the wronged party here, meatbag. Why didn't you tell us, you selfish brat? After everything my daughter and I did for you? Because I told you once. Ryan snarled, raising a finger at Alchemo. And you betrayed my trust. You went mad and tried to extract my brain, to prevent me from reloading. The genius stumbled back as if he had been slapped. T had to finish me off mid-procedure, to spare me from decades of imprisonment, Ryan continued. You couldn't live with the knowledge that you would forget everything. Because you're killing us, asshole. Saren snarled. You're playing with our lives. That is not how it works, Saren, Livia spoke up, completely calm. This is your psychosis talking, not you. I understand you must feel desperate. You can't understand me, jackass. You can't even understand what it is to be me. Saren clenched her fists. 6 months. The psycho let out these words like bullets, like a heavy secret she finally found the courage to get off her chest. The first time I gained my powers, the wind dispersed me, she admitted. I didn't know how my power worked very well, so it took me months to pull myself together. Months to find a container I didn't rust on contact. So no, you don't understand what it is to be me. To feel nothing, to see people have sex and eat food and sleep and just watch. By now she was screaming. You can't understand being separated from the world outside by this cloth prison. You can't understand being afraid of any blade around you, in case one breaches the one thing keeping you in one piece. I've spent years like this. And you spent those years hanging out with Adam and letting him sow misery wherever he went, Ryan replied, his tone icy. I've watched you stand by his side after he burnt all of New Rome to cinders. Did you stand by his side when he force-fed Helen an elixir? Would you have let him turn me into a psycho, if I couldn't turn back time? To her credit, Hazmat Girl faltered a little at his words, but not enough to take responsibility. I had no choice. Nobody else would help, and when I was in, he wouldn't let me go. Ryan didn't buy that excuse. You always have a choice, even if some will cost you more than others. He knew that from experience. You just weren't brave enough to take a stand. And unlike Frank, Mongrel, or Acid Rain, you can't claim insanity. You're entirely lucid. The courier felt some sympathy for her situation, and he owed her one for helping him so far, but it didn't even begin to make up for her actions. He would cure her, but he wouldn't forget. Saren, we are working on a solution, Livia promised, her tone soft and diplomatic. We have gone further than what Adam the ogre ever promised you. But we need more time. It's always more time, she said, skeptical. Adam said that too. Next time's the charm. I promised that I would cure you, and I will, Ryan swore. But you have seen the corpses outside, the people Ghoul killed before I could stop him. This timeline is spiraling towards greater destruction. But we're alive. Saren protested. Helen, Mongrel, Frank, you can cure us, if you keep going. But you're going to run. You gave us all hope, and you're to throw us all away. Who gives you the right to let us all die so you can get a new chance, huh? Who gave it to you? Ryan argued. I have some compassion for your airheadness, but don't push me. I didn't ask for this power, but I made the best of it. I can achieve an outcome where everyone is happy, you included. Not me. Another me. If you follow through with your promise and don't forget us. You hold all the freaking cards. If that's what you fear, we could copy your memories, Livia suggested, hopeful. I can store as many brain maps as needed. I have air for a head, Saren pointed out. What brain can you copy? If you die now, I die too. Then why are you threatening me? Ryan pointed out. What do you think it will achieve? The psycho froze in place. You haven't thought that far, Livia said. Because you are not thinking straight, Saren. Lower your gauntlets, and let us talk it out. The psycho didn't listen. I'm sick of words, she said, pointing both her gauntlets at Ryan. You're all talk and no action, like Adam. Cure me now, or I'll kill you. I will come back, the courier replied. The words sounded bitter in his mouth. But you won't bring anyone else back. No more transfers. Your amphibian girlfriend, she's not going back either. If I die, she dies too. Ryan tensed up, but Livia reacted quicker. All you will do is ruin your chances of ever being cured, she said. Because you won't stop him, and he will remember. Has he abused your trust so far? Trust? That's what I should do, trust? Saren trembled. Why? Ryan broke his silence. Because that's all you have left. The psycho opened fire. A blast of compressed air hit the wall behind Ryan, passing within an inch of his head and forcing a hole into the thick steel. He didn't flinch, nor did he move. Fuck. Saren collapsed to her knees, hitting the ground twice with her fists. She had raised her white flag. I just don't want to die. I want to live. Saren, you will live, Ryan said, his tone softening a little. I swear, by the end of it, you will have a happy ending. My name is not Saren, you jerk, she hissed, her voice full of bitterness. Don't you get it? I don't want to be Saren. I don't want to be that. I can't stand it, and I want my life back. Ryan hesitated for a moment, before kneeling next to her and putting a hand on her shoulder. He felt nothing inside the hazmat suit, except compressed air. I swear I will cure you all, he said. But you're not the only person on my Christmas list. Your turn will come, even if I have to repeat the same month for years, but you shall wait for it. She didn't push him away, which he took for a good sign. Alchemo, who had watched things unfold without a word, finally found his tongue again. Or vocal device, in his case. Meatbag, is that why you left us without a word? He asked. Because of what I did. Ryan shrugged. I couldn't stand the sight of you anymore after that. And once this loop is done, I hope I won't see you again. I'll consider your favor settled, and you won't hear from me. The genius looked down at the cold hard floor, and then up. No, Ryan. I'm sorry. No, Alchemo repeated, ignoring the courier's glare. That was another me having a moment of weakness. I am not the person he was. We were one once, but we developed differently. You are who you are on your worst day, Ryan replied. It revealed what you are, deep inside. I am who I am on my best days too, meatbag. And every day of my life. The cyborg shook his head. I am a cynical old man who had to make a robot daughter, because he drove everyone else away. There, I said it. I was angry when you left, and it hurt the doll. But it made me question myself. Made me try to do better. Better for you, the courier accused him. No, the genius replied calmly. Not just for me. For the doll too. She wanted to help others, so I did. I can help you, and that gaseous girl. Maybe she doesn't have a brain, but she can form memories. I can figure it out, make a copy of her mind. Do the same for me, and others. I don't trust you, Ryan replied. And the more people who know about my power, the greater the danger. Yet you expect us to trust you unconditionally. Alchemo snarled back. Ryan, Livia said, putting a hand on the courier's shoulder. You didn't trust me either once. Trust is earned, Ryan countered. Then let me copy the doll's memories and take them with you, Alchemo said. You may not like me, meatbag, but she loved you, much to my annoyance. If we never meet again, my daughter will never find closure. You'll just leave a gaping hole. Whether you like it or not, you have people who care for and rely on you, Ryan, Livia said, glancing at a despairing Saren. You don't have to leave them all behind. I can understand the risks, but is it worth driving into the sunset without looking back, again and again? Right in the gut. Ryan looked at Saren, and his mind wandered back in time. Back when he drove away from Monaco after freeing its prisoners. How he left behind people with whom he had shared a lifetime, never to take it back. He remembered Spain, France, Italy, all the places he visited, all the communities he helped but never stayed with. The courier could do the same with Rome, achieving his perfect run with Len and leaving the place afterward. No one would know but Livia. He could begin again, as he had always done. He had fun hanging out with Felix, the panda, Wardrobe, Vulcan, and many others, but his eternal life would go on without them. But now Ryan could bring others with him. He could make bonds transcending time. Make connections that wouldn't break, that could go wrong, that he couldn't take back. And it terrified him. However, Ryan remembered his time with Jasmine, and how he had made the decision to trust and tell her everything. He had taken a gamble then, because he realized something important. He couldn't do the same thing over and over again and expect different results. If Ryan wanted a change in his life, it had to begin with him. Even if it meant taking a risk. The courier sighed. I won't take everyone. Too many people know already. He didn't want a repeat of his capture by Adam and Psyshock. I will record the memories of the people you vet first, Livia reassured him. My father wants me back, but I have the feeling now is the best time to make backups of everyone. We are approaching a point of no return soon. Yes. Once Dynamis and the carnival mobilized, things would become extraordinarily more difficult. But it would feel nice to have other people having his back. Alchemo took Saren with him, to try and figure out how to record her memories. Ryan didn't know if it was possible, even if he hoped for it. This situation, no, this entire loop, was a giant leap into the unknown. It could have gone better, the courier said, as he faced the door to Shorty's room along with Livia. Believe me, Ryan, it went far better than it could have. Though I couldn't predict your interactions with her, I've seen Saren opening fire on me and Alchemo. Someone would have died. Livia joined her hands together. I do not understand why you didn't jump at the opportunity to carry more people with you. You can't fathom the number of people I left behind. What's one or two more? Ryan looked away. Why did you insist we bring them? Because you are a good man, Ryan. The courier glanced at the mafia princess, and she smiled at him. A warm, lovely grin. Others with your power would not have gone as far as you did to make people's lives better, Livia said, her smile turning sadder. Anne. I can tell it brings you great unhappiness. Every relationship you had was not a source of joy, but an open wound, a burden. Even now, you fear making connections you can't take back. You're not afraid of death, but you're afraid of other people. Ryan remembered his philosophical discussions with Simon, back when they were trapped in Monaco. Sartre said that hell is other people. He was wrong, I think. Hell is loneliness. Livia shook her head. I think only the two of us can understand that well. Ryan glanced at the door. Len is facing her own special kind of hell right now, he admitted. And I don't know how to bring her out of it. His precognitive friend remained silent for a few seconds, looking for the right words. When I was young, my father used to take my mother and me to Sicily, she said, her tone somber. He would drive through the hillsides and valleys on the island, and for hours we did nothing but watch the scenery. These were simple pleasures, but we were happy. Ryan listened in silence. Every time I see what my father has become, Livia marked a short pause. Or what he has always been, I remember these moments. I always wish we could go back to them. I think your friend feels the same. But there are some things you can't go back to, even with all the powers in the world, Ryan said. I checked. No, Livia admitted with a sigh. But you can try to make new, happier memories. With the right people. The courier looked at this young woman wise beyond her years, and at the sadness in her gaze. So can you, Livia. She didn't seem convinced. You have a second chance at happiness with people who love and trust you. In my case, you have people who love and trust you, Ryan reassured her. That's why you're even here. Didn't we have fun together? Her cheeks turned a little pinkish. Yes, we did. Then let's make new happy memories of our own, the courier said, smiling behind his mask. Thank you, Livia. For everything. She chuckled. You told my previous self that she wasn't alone, and I will repeat these words to you. You are not alone, Ryan. Not anymore. Neither was she. Ryan knocked on the door, and it opened by itself. He walked inside while Livia remained behind, her expression undecipherable. He found Len sitting on a bed, her knees pulled towards her chest, and her hands around her legs. Her water rifle remained within arm's reach, as if she might need it any time. Perhaps Shorty expected Bloodstream to barge into the room any time, as he did back in her childhood. The sight broke Ryan's heart. Len had never moved on. Shorty, he said while sitting at her side. She didn't move, even as he put an arm around her shoulder. It's almost time. I'm about to open the gate for Darkling to return home, and then. I don't know what I will do when we meet him, she admitted, her voice muffled by her knees. Me neither, Ryan admitted, his gaze distant. But you were right. It's the only way to get closure. Do you think there's a chance to cure him? Make him human again? I don't know. Tyranno might have modified him to make the knockoff elixirs. Maybe he's already dead, and they're harvesting the corpse. Len didn't answer a word at that, perhaps having already rehearsed the possibility in her mind. The slime in the experimental chamber hadn't said a word, nor shown any sign of sentience. Perhaps Dynamis didn't even keep Bloodstream in custody, but created something else with whatever DNA the psycho had left behind. They wouldn't know until they had broken into Lab 66, and Len couldn't do that while sitting on a bed all day. She grabbed her water rifle, her expression turning determined. Let's go, Len said. 85, The Light Beyond. Once upon a time, Ryan and Jasmine had sat around a workshop and planned to make an armor capable of destroying Dynamis HQ. That promise was now fulfilled. You have 2 hidden switchblades below the arms and laser turrets in the gauntlets, Vulcan explained, as she helped Ryan put the power armor on. Darkling slithered in the background, waiting for the experiment to begin. Since you intend to force your way inside the HQ, I added a nuclear-powered chest blaster. The Chernobyl? Ryan asked with enthusiasm as his genius sidekick reinforced the armor's joints with a screwdriver. Yep. If the blast doesn't kill them, cancer will, Vulcan replied with a grin, as she grabbed the armor's helmet. What? He had heard it all before. I want rocket launchers too. No, she said immediately.
Aww.
Come on. You sound like a child, and there isn't enough space to fit more weapons. Also, the blast might throw you backwards if you aren't anchored on the ground. I'll keep that in mind, Ryan replied, already imagining ways of abusing that feature. Vulcan? Yes, that's my name. Why the rabbit ears? Ryan asked, pointed an armored finger at the helmet. Using a design improved across multiple loops, Vulcan's power armor was a technological marvel. An exoskeleton of lightweight, flexible alloy, it espoused Ryan's form like a second skin. Its bright purple color made it impossible to ignore, just as the courier liked it. Its servos enhanced the wearer's strength, yet the armor remained light enough not to impair his mobility. A reinforced backpack contained a miniature version of the chronoradio, artificial brain included, which should allow the courier to transfer a mind across time. Unfortunately, even while working with Alchemo, Short hadn't found a way to bring more than one person yet. However, the armor's strangest part was undoubtedly the helmet. Two long antennae rose from it, which combined with the orange lenses, made the helmet look like a robotic rabbit's head. Ryan knew he had something of a hair theme going on, but this was too much. Too much. The antennae streamline your connection to the dimension which your power draws violet flux from, Vulcan said with a shrug, as she put the helmet on Ryan's head. The armor's artificial brain will gather data to help you better understand your power. Ryan glanced at the room around them, the bunker's miniature particle collider. A chilling frost filled this conical chamber, the walls covered in web-like, biomechanical strands. Silver fluid flowed through them, and they hummed like a living entity's veins. Only a single blast door allowed someone to enter this facility. Mecran's technology had transcended flesh and metal to become something greater than both. This was the place where the bunker's AI summoned Darkling once. Perhaps the alchemist had one such room in Antarctica, and used it to bring the elixirs to the realm of men. Ryan really needed to dedicate a loop to locate and check up on that snowy base. He had the feeling he would find many answers there. Data appeared on the helmet's lens after the courier put it on, the scene reminding him of that fateful loop where he accessed the purple world. However, his current armor was a cut above the prototype. It included technology from various geniuses, and components impossible to reproduce without Mecran's matter replicator. Ryan would have to conquer the bunker again to make a new suit. Something easier to say than do. Now we have to find a name for it, the courier said. Ryan was sorely tempted to rename himself Plushy Master, but that might infuriate their long-eared overlords. The Rabinator? That name sucks. White Rabbit. It's not white, and you're terrible at names, Vulcan said, putting her hands on her waist as she found a name of her own. How about the Saturn Armor? I thought the Augusti had exclusivity over Roman gods' names. I am an Olympian, you moron, and I say Saturn. Maybe you could even kick Augustus' ass with it. Wouldn't that be great? You know Jupiter defeated Saturn, right? Then again, Ryan was all about repeating lost battles until he won them. How about Kronos instead? This armor is my baby, so I name it. I name it Saturn. She gave him a tap on the back of his head. So, you'll try the particle accelerator, and afterward it's rating time?
Yeah.
Livia had returned to her father, partly to make sure he wouldn't get involved, and mostly so she would record the brain maps in a safe place. Ryan couldn't afford to put her on the front lines, since he needed her alive to transfer her mind across time. Len took care of the children, using bathyspheres to send them away before things turned very messy. Alchemo had made a copy of his daughter's mind, though he didn't tell her why, and currently struggled to do the same with Saren. The genius theorized her memories were encoded in her molecular structure rather than neurons, and so made a record of it. Ryan needed to figure out a specialized solution for Saren's unique biology. You want to come? Ryan asked Vulcan, almost eager. You bet I will, she said with a grin. Even if the bitch left them, I've got a bone to pick with the corpos. It is time. Darkling's eerie voice caused Vulcan's head to snap in his direction. Open the gate. Damn it, I'm never getting used to it, the genius said, examining the black elixir. I would love to study you in death. I have been studied far longer than you can imagine, the Shoggoth replied, a hint of frustration in its voice. If it remembered all of Ryan's loops, then he probably spent years trapped in a bottle. Perhaps even decades. I have waited long enough. Well, I'll keep the data then, Vulcan said with a shrug, before exiting the room through the blast door and leaving the Shoggoth alone with the courier. Are you ready? The black elixir asked Ryan. Sure, but I don't see why you need me in the room, the courier said. The portal worked fine without me when Mecran's machines trapped you in our dimension. I will need your help to stabilize. The alien entity seemed to struggle to find the right words in the human language. You are connected to the purple world, the crossroad of all space and time, even other worlds. Ryan looked at his armored hands. All of space and time, huh? Distance, past, and future are illusions. All is connected. So cryptically helpful. Vulcan's voice echoed in the particle accelerator. Ready to break the laws of physics? She asked. Let's make them cry, Ryan replied. Vulcan started the particle accelerator, the silver fluid pulsating with electricity. The walls rotated around Ryan and Darkling, faster and faster, until they started to blur. Gravity became lighter, the courier's feet slowly getting off the ground. Colored lightning coursed through the silver fluid, and surged all across the room. Bolts bounced off Ryan's armor, or hit Darkling's viscous surface. The electricity changed coloration in a strange pattern, from red to orange, from yellow to green, from blue to violet. Flux. The lightning became blinding white for a brief instant, and then turned black as the darkest night. Instead of surging in all directions, the bolts concentrated on a single point at the center of the room, building up into a sphere. A dark spot no bigger than a thumb, a black hole in the very fabric of reality. Too small, Darkling's many eyes focusing on the sphere with hope and dread. Open it. How do I do that? Ryan asked, having a hard time hearing the giant slime over the sound of thunder. You are the key, open the gate. Ryan glanced at the sphere, and in a moment of scientific curiosity, took it in his palms. His fingers trembled as he did so, an invisible force coursing through his flesh and bones. When his armored hands touched the sphere, his whole body shuddered, the elixir in his veins reacting to the eldritch power. His thumbs dug into the black hole, its surface shifting like water. Ryan felt an intense, primordial cold inside this miniature portal. The courier activated his power, and time slowed down to a crawl. His armor kept providing data even as the universe turned purple and violet particles floated all around him. Black lightning coursed through the particle accelerator even in the frozen time, colliding with the violet flux particles. The universe's fabric tore itself apart under the strain of Ryan's power, and his hold on the portal became firmer. The courier extended his arms, and the gate widened. The sphere slowly grew from a tennis ball's size to that of a soccer one. Ryan noticed a figure appearing at the edge of his vision, violet flux taking the shape of a humanoid specter racing at him. Though the phantom seemed to run towards the courier, it advanced slowly, only a few centimeters per second. The closer it became, the sharper its features. The courier noticed a magician's hat, the shape of a jacket. This is me, Ryan realized. His other self in the purple world, converging towards his timeline. Always trying to catch up to the present. The armor enhanced his power enough that he could observe how it worked in detail. If the phantom caught up to Ryan, he would create a new save point. The moment is now, Darkling said, its voice brimming with an all-too-human emotion, hope. Do it now. And with a final push, Ryan opened the gate to the black world. The portal transformed into a disk 2 meters in diameter, a rift in spacetime itself. Colored streams of light formed a halo at its edge, like a black hole's event horizon, a gate to a world of infinite darkness. Ryan gazed into this abyss for seconds that seemed to stretch on forever. The portal's energies interfered with his power, preventing his other self from catching up. Time itself grew unstable, and it frightened the courier. The black world existed beyond time itself, beyond reason. And yet, it drew him in like a moth to a flame. Ryan remembered how Geist and Bacchus both got a glimpse of higher dimensions and yearned to contact them again, just as Mekrin had grown obsessed with creating a portal towards his power's source, according to the bunker's files. The courier never understood why, until now. A divine power dwelt within each colored dimension, and beckoned humans to come closer. Follow me. Ryan glanced at Darkling, who impatiently slithered towards the portal. The time anomaly didn't affect it in the slightest. Where? To the other side. The sentient elixir's form shifted, its liquid floating in midair while leaving a pile of corroded human bones behind. The Black Ultimate One will free your spirit from this flesh-shaped shell. Your mind shall no longer be bound by your gravity and molecules. I will show you places you can't even imagine. You will become free from causality's torments. Ryan glanced at the purple phantom, getting closer by the second. I will leave everyone behind if I do that. But inside the black world, nothing is forbidden. You could see her again. Jasmine? A person who could have existed yet never did. An impossibility that defied all laws of time and space. A woman who could only exist in an impossible place. No, Ryan told himself. He had hope for the first time in centuries, and he needed to save New Rome from annihilation. He had made too many promises he couldn't break. No, I can't. Her voice came out of the portal. I was a hero once. Ryan's head snapped back at the abyss, and the impenetrable darkness beyond it. It spoke with another voice, the echo of someone long gone. God put us on Earth for a reason, a man beckoned from the other side. One day, you will realize the boulder isn't your enemy. It's your friend. Simon? Ryan asked, remembering a fateful conversation centuries past. No, it wasn't Simon. It was just an echo stirred up by the black world, a lure to draw him in. And yet, this dimension existed beyond time and space. Could something other than an echo remain on the other side? A remnant of cancelled iterations? All that you have erased, Darkling whispered. You can make it exist again, a paradox. Can't you bring me in for the ride too? Felix's voice. When you turn back time, Ryan, I'll forget that. I'll be angry and bitter at her, all over again. Her death will mean nothing. Ryan could bring them all back, if he crossed the threshold. Maybe find a Len with whom things went right, or some of the countless men and women he left in his dust. People he had loved and hated, known and remembered. Friends and loved ones who only existed in his memories now. The abyss tempted the courier so sweetly. Something on the other side called him, begged him to leave that painful reality behind for a better one. One where he wouldn't suffer anymore, and where his curse could finally end. But the courier's eyes wandered to the phantom of his past, catching up to him. He thought of all the promises he made, all the people who trusted him. There were fewer than the billions he erased, but they were alive. He couldn't abandon them, even for a chance at happiness. Both the black and the purple pulled him in a different direction, and Ryan couldn't decide. So the abyss spoke again, sinking its claws into the courier's mind. Even if I disappear, promise you won't forget me. The courier followed Darkling into the black world. The warmth of Earth's dimension vanished, replaced with an absolute, chilling cold. Yet it felt strangely comforting. The black world was darker than the darkest abyss, and yet Ryan could see things moving inside. Living equations that had gained a life of their own, an Ouroboros devouring its own tail, never running out of mass, stillborn realities neither time nor depth held sway. This eldritch realm had a pulsating heart, a great darkness of unfathomable size. A black hole that made the one at the center of the Milky Way look like a speck of dust. An entity whose mere attention could erase Ryan from existence, if it didn't consciously hold back. The Black Ultimate One. It had sent the voices to communicate with Ryan, the way a human might attempt to mimic an ant's language. The entity had heard the courier's wish, and would grant it in its own way. Darkling's form changed, from that of a slime to something else. Something that gave Ryan a headache when he looked at it. A sphere with triangular ends and recursive eyes, prismatic wings, and impossible geometries. An entity that couldn't exist in Earth's reality, and could now regain its true form. This place changed Ryan too. His hands seemed to flicker in and out of existence, turning into eldritch darkness one moment, and back to normal the next. The courier was a creature of physical laws, of molecules and organs. This place had no logic, no rules to constrain him. The Saturn armor maintained his form for now, a shell protecting his essence, but the blackness would consume it. Ryan would lose his physical form, forget the very concept of a shape and ascend into something more than human. Something free. Don't go, Ryan. The voice was the courier's own. Ryan looked behind him, the portal nothing more than a lone star surrounded by the dark void of space. A figure of violet light had stopped running, and instead waited on the other side like an abandoned child. I cannot follow beyond this gate, the purple phantom pleaded with Ryan's own voice. If you close the door, we will part ways forever. You are my elixir, Ryan realized, his voice echoing all around him. My save point. I am your other half. The power slumbering within you. The phantom extended a hand at Ryan, but couldn't cross the portal. If you ascend, you will no longer be human. You will become a denizen of this black realm, and you won't return. I don't want to come back. Ryan marked a short pause, a layer of ice growing on his armor from the cold. Darkling awaited at his side, silent as a tombstone. I have come back too many times already. I know, the phantom said, apologetic. And I am sorry for it. When we bonded, I looked deep inside of you. I tried to understand what you wanted, to fulfill your greatest wish. Then why did you give me this power? Why do you keep reviving me, even when I die of old age? Because I thought this power would make you happy, Ryan. That is what all elixirs want for their humans. To help. Even if sometimes, we are not very good at it. You are so different from us. If you want me to be happy, then stop bringing me back again and again. Ryan snarled, unloading centuries of bitter despair. Just let me rest. The phantom marked a pause, its voice brimming with genuine sadness. I cannot, Ryan. I cannot stop you from returning. I cannot undo the wish you made when we bonded, nor change its parameters. Then you know why I must go. Ryan's breath turned to ice, the darkness draining him of his warmth. The Black Ultimate One beckoned him to close the portal, and leave Earth forever. It just hurts. Even now, I will leave people behind. Even with that technology and all this help. I will snuff countless lives out. Even with his godlike power, Ryan couldn't save everyone. Death does not exist in the purple world, which is why it fascinates the rabbit. It is innocent like a child, as I was once. The phantom kept its hand extended, still hopeful its partner would come back to it. Back to the pain of immortality. Humans die, yet they move on, even without your power. You wanted to return to the past, to change the present. This was the wish you made. The portal seemed to waver, the connection weakening. But you can move on now, the specter argued. You can stop looking to the past, and towards the future. Make new memories, and happier moments. You can grow old, have children. Find peace. Ryan sighed. I feel old already. But you won't grow old alone anymore, the elixir argued. You have never been alone, Ryan. I have always been with you, though you could not hear me. Every time you stumbled, I helped lift you up. When you entered the purple world, it is I who begged the Ultimate One to help you. Because I care for you. Care. Others cared for him. Len had fought at his side countless times, even after all Ryan cost her. Livia placed her trust in him, just as he took a gamble on her. He had befriended Felix, Fortuna, Jamie, and so many others. Saren and other madmen had placed their hopes in him, of all people. If Ryan left Earth behind, he condemned it. He would leave it to the plushie, to Bloodstream, and Augustus to ravage. He would abandon Len to suffer, Livia to remain with her father, Felix to face his doom, and New Rome to burn. But if he returned... I will never see them again if I go back, Ryan said with a heavy heart. All the people I left behind. If I can recreate their essence in this place, perhaps I can bring them through the portal. If you use the black to bring the dead back, they will suffer. Like your friend, they will be paradoxes in a universe unsuited for them. An existence of pure agony. The specter shook its head, the portal slowly shrinking. Let the dead rest, Ryan. Your place is with the living. Ryan glanced at Darkling, and at the colossal black hole. None moved to restrain the courier, and no past echo tempted him further. The decision was his own. He couldn't stay. His elixir was right, he didn't belong with the dead. His place was with Len, Livia, and all the people who placed their trust in him. Even if it hurt, Ryan had to let the past go. I'm sorry, Darkling, Ryan said, as he turned to the friendly Shoggoth. I can't stay here. I understand, the entity replied, its voice bizarre and yet comprehensible. You're not mad? Black is paradox, freedom from all laws, the ability to say no to everything. Even to itself. The eldritch horror marked a short pause. When you are satisfied with what you achieved, and wish to end it all. I will wait for you here. Thanks, Ryan said, nodding at the creature. Farewell, Darkling.
Goodbye.
My friend. Ryan took a step, and although there was no ground to walk on, he crossed the distance with the portal in an instant. The black world itself bent to his will, granting him his wish. The courier crossed the gate before it closed, returning to the particle accelerator. Welcome home, his other self said. The courier cancelled his power before he and his other self could touch, before a new save point could form. Time resumed at once, and the portal collapsed into nothingness. The violet particles vanished, and the courier stood alone in the particle accelerator, the only witness of that strange contact with the beyond. Did it work? Vulcan's voice echoed in the room. In response, Ryan activated his power and froze time. The world turned purple, and the violet specter appeared again at the edge of his vision. Can you speak? The courier asked. No answer. The specter kept moving in his doppelganger's direction, but made no sound. Perhaps direct communication had only been possible due to the black world's interference. Ryan extended an armored hand at his double as if to reach for it, and immediately froze. Black particles floated out of his body, alongside the violet ones.